Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another action-packed episode of A Work in Progress, AWI Pod. This is a show we call The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but this is the Nitro edition. This is our second ever edition where we review an episode of Nitro because they still haven't put those pesky episodes of Raw from 1998 up on Netflix yet, and I don't think they ever will. I, of course, am your host, Brent Piles, and with me, as always, is my trusted friend and cohort and tag team partner from across the ocean from the future. He's the barroom brawler, disco dancer, dynamite stretch, and intercontinental playboy. Folks, he's at GR, also known as Glenn Abbott. Glenn, how are you doing?
I'm a lot better than I was yesterday. Hence, we're recording this on a Saturday rather than a Friday.
Or any other day that we record it usually any day between Monday and Friday, but never usually Saturday.
There's no football apart from the FA Cup, so
no football that's going to give
our
us
mob are away.
Yeah, there were no football match that are going to anxiety induce us Arsenal fans.
Like 6-a-side or 7-a-side friendlies going on in Dubai or wherever it is. They're doing their warm weather training,
and that's not on TV, so I can't watch that anyway. So
no, that's right.
But yeah,
since we last spoke, before we go on to the Royal Rumble, there was a rather important football match last weekend.
I mean, yeah, they it's funny because I think people seem to have forgotten that football match happened last weekend. They only think about the Newcastle match now that's happened. People just completely forgot about them.
Yeah, well, a few of the guys that follow me on Blue Sky are old compatriots of mine from when we first started the Tie Yellow Ribbon podcast back in the day. One of those is a well-known author of Arsenal material, and he basically summed it up, and he said that all the energy was put in. Wednesday was never going to be the be-all and end-all of it, and it doesn't really matter.
So I wasn't surprised.
No, and all these people that are going on about Newcastle humbled us. Well, they didn't really.
First of all, Newcastle supporters,
City, which was more
stay humble thing. You're not even a part of that. Find your own banter. That's between us and Manchester City fans. You're not a part of it. Find something else to talk about.
Exactly. I'm sure Haaland will talk about you at some point. Not that we've probably got any City supporters to listen to us.
Probably not. Here's another thing that I like to complain about. I've noticed that since last Saturday's win, young Lewis Scally got his first goal, and then he kind of mocked the Haaland celebration that he did earlier in the season when he scored a goal on us.
Yeah.
And he sat down. And I saw that a lot of people, or journalists, are kind of giving him a hard time about that. And I know exactly why guys like him get a hard time for doing stuff like that. Meanwhile, guys like Haaland can throw the ball at the back of someone's head, push Gabriel Jesus after the match and call him a fucking clown, look at Lewis Scally and say, who the fuck are you? But he's allowed to do all that, and Lewis Scally is not allowed to do anything. And that's because Lewis Scally is a black guy and Haaland is a white guy. And that's what it is. Well, we could call a spade a spade.
Good point. But also the fact that he plays in an Arsenal shirt doesn't help.
Yeah, that also has something to do with it. I used to not believe in, conspiracies, but the longer we go on about this thing, I don't see how you can't think that there's a conspiracy, because it seems like every time we do something, it's a problem. But when everyone else does it, it doesn't matter.
That's why I bowed out of that podcast, because it was getting so negative about everything. And it was at the time when it was just coming up to the Arsene Wenger in and Arsene Wenger out for the first time, when our fans were fighting amongst themselves. And I thought, I just can't be doing with any of this.
I always think, like, when things go bad, some people just want to be so negative and just run people down. And I don't think the way to be a supporter is to run down the players on your team. I mean, I get that you can get frustrated at times and you might have a few things bad to say about a certain player, but to sit there and just rail on them over and over and over again, I don't think that's something that a supporter of a football club does. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it.
It should. Yeah, that's exactly how it should be. Talking of that, and doing a segue. Those fans are not 100 miles apart from wrestling fans, because I've heard some strange things over the last week about the Royal Rumble that people didn't like, and I thought it was bloody brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, me and the mayor kind of talked about this, and I wanted to get Glenn's thoughts on it. Let's talk about it. I know a lot of people didn't like Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. What do you think?
Rumble, it doesn't necessarily need to be a man walking in or a woman walking in. It could be somebody different winning it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
And the way it was done was amazing. It was Cena. They did a great job of selling that finish. How casual it was. He just sort of pushed him off the edge.
It was almost like I said to the mayor. It's almost as if he patted him on the back.
Yeah.
And he fell off. Yeah.
The Women's Rumble was probably the best Women's Rumble there's been. And I won't take any arguments from anybody over that. I will die on that hill. There were so many little individual stories within it, and also the major thing of Charlotte coming back and winning it, which was pretty obvious that was going to happen. But the other little individual stories that were told amongst it, and all the feuds that are going on and everything, it was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, they had some of the ladies from NXT come up too and have some good showings. I thought Lash Legend looked great out there. Roxanne Perez. I mean,
Roxanne Perez is amazing.
Yeah, she now holds the record for longest time spent in the Women's Royal Rumble. So
yeah,
I imagine we'll be seeing her full time on the main roster very soon.
I should think so. Once this last title feud is over with.
Like I said with the mayor, I was obviously a bit disappointed when John Cena didn't win the Royal Rumble, because that's how I wanted to happen. But at the same time, I thought
John
to
Cena
myself, yeah, I'm a big John, exactly, and it's just what I wanted to see. But at the same time, like, why I thought to myself, I sat there for a second disappointed, but then when I watched Jay out there celebrating with his son, I thought, why couldn't it be Jey Uso? Why can't Jey Uso go to WrestleMania and win the championship? Like, why? What's wrong with that? And good for him. You know what I mean? Good for him. I think that's great. I have no issue with that at all. Just because it's not what I wanted doesn't mean it's bad or doesn't mean it's terrible. And I think that people who get mad about that are just fickle wrestling fans, and wrestling fans are very, very fickle individuals. We only love you until a certain point. We don't love you. We don't want you to get so far. We only want to get you to where we think you deserve to go, but not further, which is silly.
There was a wonderful thing on YouTube. I don't know if you saw it, where they shot the Jimmy winning it from the Anoa'i living room, and there was Rikishi and a few of the others there. When John Cena went to headbutt Jay, Jay no-sold it. They went bananas. Let's keep the tradition going. You don't headbutt a Samoan.
I think I'm sure I said that too. I was like, oh, John, you don't headbutt a Samoan. You know better than that. You know better than that. It'll be interesting to see what happens from here on out. I didn't watch SmackDown, but I did watch Raw. So we'll have to see where it goes. Unfortunately, we did get a few people released from WWE, I think, yesterday. None of which really, any of them that really surprised me, except for maybe Sonya Deville, because they had just kind of put her into a faction with Zoe Stark.
Faction with, and they sold the hell out of them on Saturday.
They did.
The three of them good on Saturday, and then.
Well, and the funny thing about Deville too is I read that it wasn't an all-and-out release. It's that her contract is up in a couple of weeks, and they're not going to renew it. So they're just not renewing her contract. So it's just strange to me that you would put her in a, and maybe it's a mutual thing. Maybe she just didn't feel like it was meshing well, and she just wants to move on, which is totally understandable. And I think if she signs with TNA, I think she would do really, really well at TNA.
Oh God, yeah, she'll tear that division up, especially with TNA losing a feud to WWE anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I think right now, I watch TNA obviously, but when you look at the women's roster, I think them and NXT right now really have the best women's divisions. If you look top to bottom,
yeah. And they're only going to get better the more they mix.
Yeah, and that's only going to help both sides. I think that's a great thing that the thing that they're doing together. I think that's great for everybody. So, yeah, but
see, that's it's this knee-jerk reaction to. I know it's never nice when you hear people being released. Fan knee-jerk reaction. Oh, the company must be in trouble. There's something wrong. No, it may be just they're getting rid of the dead wood.
It's very rare.
You hardly ever see Leo Davenport or Isla Dawn or Duke Hudson or any of them on any of those shows.
Or AOP or
AOP. No.
Or their granddad, Paul Ellering.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice because Paul Ellering can finally go back to his fucking retirement home. He doesn't even need a job anymore. I'm kidding. But yeah, is there anything else from wrestling this week that you wanted to talk about?
No, let's get back to the past.
All right, we will go back to the past. It was June 3rd, 1996. We are in Asheville, North Carolina, the Asheville Civic Center. I guess to summarize this show from the beginning, it's not very good. Would you agree with that statement, Glenn, or disagree with that statement?
No, it's not very good. As I told you, I've watched 2 episodes this week, and I'm a week in advance on you.
Yeah.
And it's going to get better.
Hopefully. Yeah, so this...
I don't know how long for. I've only watched 1 week in advance.
Hold on for that next week's show then. The first thing they show is an interview with the artist formerly known as The Shark. He got a haircut last week, but they only cut off half his hair, and he didn't bother to cut the rest off.
I know. He looked ridiculous. Yeah. All that handsomeness, and it looked ridiculous.
He did. And the funny thing was that he came out to no music, and he's like, cut the music! I was like, there's no music.
That was my first note as well, how he's not a shark, he's not a typhoon, he's just John Tenta.
Yeah, he's not an avalanche.
Not an avalanche, he's just John Tenta, which was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun, I guess.
That's it. He's not an avalanche. He's not a fish. He's a man.
Yeah, he said he's going to hurt the man who did this to him, and then he's going to shave the giant's head so he can feel the same embarrassment. But he said that's the reason why he didn't cut the other half of his hair off, is because he wanted to feel embarrassed every time someone saw him. That makes sense to me, but I guess. And so they get the match. It's a Big Bubba versus John Tenta. Bubba's the one who cut his hair off. Tenta eventually gets a hold of a pair of scissors, and Bubba runs out of the ring, and that's it. The match lasted about
I'm not surprised. So would I. I'd head if I was going to fight somebody and they suddenly came out with a pair of scissors or some other sharp object. I'd head for the heels too, no matter how big I was.
Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't try to fight somebody with scissors either, unless I was pretty goddamn sure that I could take the scissors away from them.
Yeah. But you're not going to take the scissors away from John Tenta. I'm not in a mood either.
No. First of all, I'd just be like, sir, you're too handsome. Put those down.
Yeah.
That's what I tell him. Just give me a hug. So, yeah, I don't... That was something. It was like a 14-second match. And I guess Big Bubba won by disqualification. I'm not sure.
No, Bubba got counted out.
Oh. So the fact that he had scissors didn't matter.
It didn't matter to the referee, no.
Okay. Well,
John Tenta won by count out.
John Tenta, this is the winner by count out. Wow. What a way to start the show, right? Next up is a tag team match. And if you thought things were going to get more exciting, you'd be wrong, because it's High Voltage, Chaos, and Ruckus taking on the Faces of Fear, which is, of course, Ming and Barbarian.
No.
Me neither.
I don't remember them at all, and after watching this, I could understand why.
Yeah, I mean, they're just two big guys with stupid fucking names. That's the only thing
That is exactly it.
Yeah, and the match was 3 minutes, 23 seconds. Coolest thing I have on here is the Barbarian did a top rope belly to belly suplex, which was pretty impressive. You got any other notes from this one?
Stereo flying headbutts was the only other one.
Yeah, that's how they
still looks painful. Still looks painful to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Faces of Fear win in what I would consider another lackluster match. 2 lackluster matches to start the show. We then get an interview with the tag team champions, it's Sting and Lex Luger. They talk about the big brawl that ended last week's show. They got a match between the Steiners. They got a match by the Steiners tonight, and they start arguing with each other. Pushing and shoving happened, and
yeah.
My favorite.
This what
were you gonna say?
Go on, sorry.
No,
this basically sums this show up.
I mean, yeah. The biggest takeaway for me during this was like me and Gene Okerlund got so angry with these guys pushing and shoving with him in his presence. He was like, "I'm never going to interview you guys again if you're going to act like this." He was like an angry mom that was going to turn the car around and take the kids back home, and they weren't going to go to the amusement park because they were fighting in the back seat. That's what it felt like.
That's it. Yeah, that was it. Exactly.
I swear we're not going to go to Disneyland if you don't calm down back there, you little bastards. That was me and Gene Okerlund.
Yeah. Then we get Sergeant Craig Pittman with Teddy Long, of course, versus Disco Inferno. I'm ashamed to share a name with that man. Poor Craig Pittman, he couldn't even get his submission hold in before Disco submitted and ran.
Yeah, and that was a new one for me. I don't think I'd ever seen anyone tap out before the move had been put in.
No.
And Glenn, let everybody at home know, why did Disco quit so quickly? Why did he not want that armbar locked in on him?
Because he didn't want his arms broken so he could do his disco move.
So he could do his disco dancing.
Yeah.
At this time, I want to remind everyone at home that while Glenn and Disco Inferno have the same first name and they both disco dance, that's the only things they have in common. Otherwise, Glenn has nothing else. We just want people to know.
That was a rumor spread around by Jeremy. I don't disco dance. I do the exact opposite. I play records, so I don't disco dance.
I didn't think you actually. Was disco big over there, over in the UK?
It was very big, yeah.
Yeah.
About 18 months after it kicked off, because we get the films later.
Right.
Saturday Night Fever didn't come over here until sort of late 77.
Right.
It wasn't until 78 that the disco track started really hitting over here.
Way over there. Yeah, I mean, I get it, Glenn. I live in Nebraska. So in the 90s, things would like gradually get to where I live. Like they'd start in the East Coast and the West Coast, and then they'd work their way in, and then eventually us in Nebraska would be like, "Oh, that's what they're doing out there in California," and then we'd start doing it. But by then, the people in California had been starting doing something totally different. You didn't know it yet. Yeah. We found out, a couple of years, it'd get into Nebraska, and we'd understand what was going on before the internet.
Yeah. I was actually lucky because there was a local record shop to me. Sorry, going off subject for a minute, folks.
No problem. Yeah.
That sold imports, 12-inch imports, mainly from the States. So I was buying stuff a little bit more expensively than they were once they'd been released over here. But I was getting disco stuff out onto the floor before it was really being popular, before it's been popularized over here, which was something.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's nice. Yeah.
No, I was one of the first DJs in the country to be playing Rapper's Delight.
I said a hip hop. Hip it, hip hop. You don't stop a rock to the bang bang.
Yeah, don't start me on that.
The boogie to me. That's a great song.
It is a great song.
Yeah, don't get us started.
People hadn't heard rap. People hadn't heard rap up to that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was like one of the first. I think that was one of the first mainstream rap songs in America too. I think. I mean, I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
Then,
yeah.
But anyway, sorry, we went down a different track there, but
anyway, moving on.
Yeah. This is probably one of the best parts of the show.
We have his lordship.
Yeah, exactly, because it's his lordship.
Lord Steven Regal with Jeeves versus Jim Duggan.
Oh! Not your sister. So we get a real American hero versus a real British hero in this one. This was the first match to go more than 4 minutes, but it only got 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Still not a very long match.
There's only so much wrestling. There's only so much wrestling Duggan can do.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, this wasn't a wrestling masterpiece, but at least it was entertaining.
It was right from the start, where there's Duggan in the ring, Steven Regal on the outside, pulling all the most disgusting faces disgusted faces that he could, about having to go in there and grapple that thing.
Yeah, that was really good. It's like, like he was just disgusted by it. Yeah. Yeah, eventually the rest of the Blue Bloods hit the ring, which is Dave Taylor and then Bobby Eaton. Eventually, Hacksaw Jim Duggan lays out Duggan with his tape fist. But then while he does that, Regal rolls him up for the win. After the match, we get a promo with the Blue Bloods. It was a really good promo from Regal again. Every show that we've watched so far of this, he's cut some really good promos. The week before he did it. I thought it was great when he talks about the fine he got for slapping Sting, and then he says that I paid double, so now I'm on credit, which I thought was a great line.
And the reason he did it is because he wants him at his best and all riled up.
Yeah. Which I thought this was really good stuff from Regal. Definitely the best part of the show up until that point. But of course, me and Glenn's got our Regal shirt on right now, so we're kind of Regal marks. So maybe we're biased.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's
all right. So, and then we get a thing from a man that you're into, Kevin Sullivan.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, don't say Chris Benoit. I am not into Chris Benoit. Please don't say that. But yes, Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, one of my favorite characters to make fun of all time. They show like a history of the feud between Kevin Sullivan and Chris Benoit because they have a Falls Count Anywhere match coming at the Great American Bash. And then we get right into basically a squash match with Kevin Sullivan beating the living shit out of Prince Iaukea.
That summed that match up perfectly. He just beat the shit.
Yeah, I mean, he really did. He won in less than 2 minutes. They do another interview after. Jimmy Hart wants to know why they have to mess around with Flair and Anderson. Sullivan says they have to stick with them because Hogan will be back and they're going to need him when he comes back. But they're going to get rid of Benoit and then they're going to get rid of Hogan. We're going to get rid of Benoit and then we're going to get rid of Hogan. Sorry, that wasn't a very good Boston accent. I tried.
He had some actually good taste, Kevin Sullivan.
What do you mean, like in women?
No, on who he allied with. He wanted to get rid of Hogan. He wanted to get rid of Benoit.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, those are two sons of bitches. I mean, if Chris Benoit had to kill someone and then kill himself, why couldn't it have been him and Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
anyway,
Jesus Christ, he would have been a hero then at that point.
He would.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
you know what? I'm not sorry. Fuck off.
It's probably what is the crappiest of crap show is the match tonight.
Oh yeah.
There's Ric Flair and Arn Anderson with Miss Elizabeth and Woman, of course, versus the Rock and Roll Express, who they've dug up again.
Yeah, they really pulled them out.
I didn't even realize that they were in WCW at this time until we saw this.
This had to be a one-off because I don't remember them being around. I don't remember seeing them.
I
on
would have
TV
thought in '96. I don't know. Would Smoky Mountain still been around? '96.
I want to say '95 is when Smoky Mountain kind of fizzled out, but I could be wrong. You know more about Smoky Mountain than I do, so. Yeah,
but I can't say. But they definitely weren't a fixture in WCW at this time.
No, definitely not. No. I mean, these guys, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson are still having matches today. So I mean, I think they could have had some sort of a run in WCW in 1996, and we could be wrong. Maybe they do something, but we
I don't think so.
We know that they'll be in WCW. I mean, WF in 1997 because they come in with that NWA crap. So
yeah, I've got it. Oh, I've got a note that says the Rock and Roll were looking 10 years older since the last time we saw them at Survivor Series 1993.
Oh yeah, they were on that show, weren't they?
Yeah.
The Rock and
So
Roll
then they
Express
must have
ever
gone-
being on a WWF show is just so weird to me. I don't know why, but it's just like they're not supposed to be here. They don't belong here. But yeah, so this match got almost 20 minutes. I think it was like 18 and change. Ric Flair comes out with the Kevin Green jersey on, and Anderson's got a Mongo jersey on. I found it funny they were doing like a whole countdown to the second hour, and like midway through this match, we've got entrance fireworks, which is really strange to me. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it was really weird. That is so WCW.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, in this match, you got three of the best tag team wrestlers of all time with Ricky, Robert, and Arn Anderson, and then what many people think is to be the best wrestler of all time in Ric Flair. So, yeah, you could say this was a pretty good match. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Except for the fact that during the first half of the match, they had audio issues. You could hardly hear what was going on.
Yeah.
And then as they come back from the break into the second hour and you get all the pyro and everything, they managed to find the volume control.
Yeah, they figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd figured it out by that point. I mean, the only bad thing, I guess, is to say about this match, if you want to like a devil's advocate, is I did feel like it drug on a bit at times. I did feel like it could have been like 3 or 4 minutes shorter. But when you lay it up against everything else in this show, which I think most matches are under 3 minutes, you can't really complain about the length of this match. But if I had to say one bad thing about it, I guess that would be it. You got any other notes from this one?
Just the ending, really, where Arn kills Gibson with a DDT, and then Rick covers him.
Yeah, Rick gets the pin. Bobby Heenan left the broadcast area midway through the match, heads down to the ring. He says something to a woman. She gets up on the apron at one point and scratches the eyes of Robert Gibson, which leads to the DDT in the pin. We get another interview after the match. Every single match had an interview after it, which was really weird to me.
Yeah.
I guess I get it. Because like they just had a match, so I guess it makes sense for them to talk, but it was just strange. I don't know.
And this one was with Deborah McMichael.
Was she there?
Yeah. She's going on about she doesn't want Steve McMichael to kill anybody, and they need to get the match called off between them and Arn and Rick.
Really? They must have cut that part out over here. I don't remember seeing Deborah McMichael.
Oh, right. Yeah, I got that because I was watching it on what's the thing?
Netflix?
No.
Daily Motion?
Daily Motion, that's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so maybe it's cut out. Maybe it's cut out on Peacock. Could be. Yeah, because I didn't see that. I just saw the interview with Flair and Arn Anderson where Flair said that he was too thick to wear a football jersey, which I thought was pretty funny. Because those two saying that they're bigger than football players, come on, that made me chuckle. Because I mean, I guess it was the '90s, so football players weren't as big as they are now. But to say that those guys are thicker than NFL football players, especially guys who play on the defensive line, come on. But I guess they're heels and they're supposed to do that. So
I loved it when Arn said about those shirts that it made him wear his gut up round his neck.
Yeah. He also said that his son, who's 10 years old, could barely get it over his head, which I thought was also funny.
Yeah.
And then Bobby the Brain Heenan comes down. He gets on the mic as well. He tells everybody that he won't manage ever again, but at the Great American Bash, he will coach Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. So he's going to be in their corner as the coach, apparently.
As the coach.
So there's that. The next one is another World Heavyweight Championship match. It's Ice Train versus the Giant. The Giant won in 32 seconds.
Not even a match. You can't call it a match. Just 4 letters I've got for this. CRAP.
Yeah. And the thing about it was, it didn't do the Giant any favors because the only reason why he won that quick is because Jimmy Hart distracted Ice Train. Ice Train turned around and the Giant chokeslammed him. So like it's not like it made the Giant look like any more of a monster because he needed Jimmy Hart's help to do it. So I don't know. I didn't get what the point of any of this was.
No.
Ice Train's partner Scott Norton comes down. He gets chokeslammed too. The Giant was really mad after the match for his after-match promo because he says he doesn't want to see any more video packages of Hulk Hogan, and he also says that Lex
We're all in agreement with that.
Yeah. You know what? Truer words have never been spoken there, Paul White. You are correct. Hulk Hogan, we never want to see you again. He also says that Lex Luger is the only total package that he wants. I thought it was strange.
Yeah.
So they left Scott Norton laying in the ring, but he's still going to wrestle Hugh Morris. Because here comes Hugh on down the ring.
Yeah.
And
just leave a dead body in the ring. Why not?
But the dead body still won. So
yeah, of course he did because he was on as they say, in the vernacular, had a rocket ship attached to his back at this point.
Yeah.
And they found out actually how crap he was.
I always did think Scott Norton seems like a nice guy though, so I like Scott Norton because he seems like a nice guy.
Oh yeah, no, nothing wrong with Scott Norton as a guy. He wasn't a very good wrestler.
Yeah, hell of an arm wrestler though, I heard, and not a guy I would want to see in the back alley. Yeah, so Norton, he basically catches Morris off the top rope. Morris tries to do a moonsault. Well, he kind of caught him, but he didn't catch him. He then slapped him really hard in the face 3 times and pinned him. So,
yeah, well, held him down rather than actually pin him.
Yeah, you're right.
Very lackadaisical.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. If Scott Norton did that to me, I probably wouldn't get up.
No, neither would I.
No. Then it's time for another a training montage.
Let's not drag this on any longer than necessary.
I just want to say that they were like having like problems with whatever they're going to do in the ring.
That's what I'm saying. Let's not drag this on any longer than necessary.
They need a manager and a coach, and so they call Randy Savage, and they're going to get Randy Savage to be their coach. And we'll talk more about that during the match because the main event is the Steiner Brothers versus Sting and Lex Luger. The World Tag Team Championships are on the line. They take a phone call and have a split screen during the main event, which I thought was strange. Like, you couldn't have had a split screen during the Disco Inferno fucking Craig Pitbull Pittman match?
Yeah, that's right.
You had to do it during the main event for the Tag Team Championships? I just thought that was fucking dumb. It didn't make sense to me. Yeah, because like you had 6 throwaway matches and 2 good ones, and this is the one where you decided to do a split screen and take a phone call.
I bet that's bloody dad's to Randy Savage. I'm only coming on here if it's during the main event.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, this match was a good match, hard hitting. I mean, the guys kept hitting finishers, and then one guy and then another guy would come in, break the pin up, and that's basically how it went back and forth for the whole time.
It was. Man slapping meat, basically.
Yeah. Eventually, the Giant comes out, chokeslams Rick Steiner. He then heads into the ring after Lex Luger. Luger fights him off, but then Scott and Sting get in the ring and they join in beating up the Giant. They eventually clothesline him over the top rope. And then they go back up to Bischoff and Bobby Heenan. Heenan's freaking out about Savage potentially being the manager for Mongo and Kevin Green. And then finally, Scott Hall shows up, tells Eric Bischoff to relax, calls him a Ken doll. He tells him he had such a good time last week, he decided to come back. Sting then heads up there to confront him. He asks him if he's lost. He says he's in the jungle. This is WCW. He said, you want 3 guys? Well, I don't see 3 guys with you. I just see you. So why don't me and you have a fight right now? And then he throws his toothpick in Sting's face, and then Sting slaps him. And he says, okay, tough guy. Next week, I've got a big surprise for you. And that is how the show goes off the air. I would say that other than 2 matches and that very end segment, this entire show was ugly.
It was.
It was ugly.
It was. It was ugly.
Oh, and I'll take the
ugly.
Hacksaw Regal stuff out of the ugly because I thought that was good too.
Yeah.
Everything else was ugly.
Anyway, let's do some ratings on this. I don't know. Yeah,
thumb is down.
You got to. Thumbs down.
I can't. There was not enough good on.
Can't even overlook the bad with what was good on the show.
Yep, it's not enough. It doesn't calm itself out for me.
No, nor me.
Nope, it does not. But rest assured, Glenn says next week's going to be better, so be on the lookout for that. Any last final things you wanted to say on this one before we go on this one?
It definitely is. I think we've destroyed it enough.
Yeah, I promise I want to be positive. As soon as you give me something to be positive about, I will be. But yeah, that's it for this edition. Glenn, I did a good job with your plugs on the other show we did this week, but I'm going to let you do them yourself this week. So you got a plug before we get out of here.
I'm booking the territory with Dan and Rob doing the first and last of wrestling in their side projects, Unstacking the Dadatory, The Road to Wembley 1981 for Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks, and the most watched wrestling match of all time, 80 million viewers. They also do Being the Late Gator Golf. They just finished up the last series 3, I think, of that. Unstacking the Tankatory, The Life and Times of Tank Abbott, and of course,
the Doctor Who podcast with Danny Inside. It's on SJP World Media.
And DDT Wrestling with DC and Doc.
Ironically, last week the only plug that I almost forgot was the one that I do.
Yes.
That was the one I almost forgot.
At least you got it in now, you remembered.
I did. I eventually figured it out. Yeah, I eventually figured it out.
Especially as only a day earlier you were talking about Daniel about going on the Doctor Who podcast.
That's true. Well, I forget a lot. I forget half of the things I've ever remembered. Let's always remember that. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a follow on the Blue Sky app if you are on there. If you're not on Blue Sky, I suggest that you join. Unless you're a Nazi, then you can go and fuck yourself. Yeah. But yeah, check that out. Check out we got a show out right now. Me and the mayor reviewed the 2025 Royal Rumble, and we discussed some stuff from this week's Monday Night Raw. That is currently on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. I don't think I have anything else to plug for this week. So the only thing left to do now is for Glenn to say goodbye.
Goodbye.